that's also not a good thing. And so what we did with Governator is basically we have a lot of agents. That's one of the properties of the Euler stack. You can create like this off-chain system, which is like a lot of agents combining like basically their power, and they all can use different models. And then they can read these proposals and sort of vote off-chain first before they vote on-chain. I think that's actually quite an interesting path to pursue autonomous agents, because I think we need to be careful that we don't worry too much right now about these sort of end game scenarios and like forget about all like concrete problems in the short term, which is basically the system just doesn't work, or is bad, or has like some very obvious exploits which this tries to address.
Yeah, super interesting. Richard, I don't know if you have anything to add on use cases or either current or future exciting ones.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on the governance use case somewhere, I think, at MICA, which is, obviously Valerie and Olis have created a bunch of agent economies, which are multi-agent systems. Often it's quite competitive, so, the coordination happens through on-chain transactions or something like that, and especially in the case of prediction agents, for example, there's no kind of information shared between prediction agents because it's like a zero-sum game, right? What we don't have yet are like ways to allow multi-agent systems to be cooperative rather than competitive, to have this like agent-to-agent communication, I think. And what that might look like for the DAO governance case is, often when you're taking governance decisions in a DAO, it's not just an individual thing where you decide. Like often you have these conversations with other people, right? And you kind of formulate opinions and all that sort of thing. So wouldn't it be really cool if we had this multi-agent system where, everyone has their own personal governance agent, and then all of these governance agents are like having conversations with each other automatically, with everyone else in the DAO, and then maybe, the most interesting conversations get highlighted to the human, and then some sort of governance action gets taken. So, these kind of cooperative multi-agent use cases, I think, could come next.
Yeah, really cool. Nick?
Yeah, I'd love to jump on that. I think we have kind of like, okay, what is an agent today? And that's a mental model. Okay, what is a DAO today? And that's a mental model. And all of these things are evolving really quickly. So I wonder if we can like take that even 10 years into the future. It's like, okay, well, what is, if we all have AI agents, maybe multiple AI agents that represent us, understand our values, understand what we know, understand what we care about, they have resources that we give them to steward on our behalf, they can go out into the economy of agents and find other agents and other people that share our values and start to emerge collectives. And then those become DAOs. We group resources into the pools that those DAOs form, and then those DAOs as agents that now have the full set of the knowledge of all the agents, but plus the emergent knowledge that's coming into that DAO can now take action to achieve shared goals. That to me is a super exciting vision for the way that this could unfold. And I see the pieces of the puzzle kind of starting to come together, which is really exciting.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really common pattern for new types of apps. There was actually a Black Mirror episode on this. It was like a dating app where, everyone has their own dating agent, and then your dating agent dates everyone else's dating agents, and you just run that at scale in all of society, right? And then, maybe the most interesting conversations get brought back to the humans. But you can do that for like, recruitment versus job seeking agents, recruitment agents, maybe like VC agents and, startup agents all pitching to each other, and just run these like simulations at scale, and then, highlight the interesting things to humans, or like form DAOs out of them.
Does anyone have any thoughts on what implications this has for governance, but also just institutions more broadly in the broader sense, in terms of our democracies, our, not just DAOs, but the things that kind of govern our lives?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we look forward, like Vincent gave this talk earlier, which outlined like a lot of the research, and I basically think we need forms of agents, governing agents, and like for practical, like physical reasons, that they are faster and like operating at a different dimension than us. And that takes us back to this multi-agent system. Like it seems strange to me that we would have a centralized single agent winning out. I think like very specific, like physical situation needs to rise where that's the case. Even if someone has like some sort of form of super intelligence, there's like at some point some levels of like resource constraints you run into, and like there's other competitors around. So like I think it makes sense to think about like, okay, societal structures of these autonomous AI agents. Will there be like a police for them, a court system for them? What this kind of, and then the whole thing around alignment as well. It's like there's this kind of weird, like, and like if you think about alignment, like in one way, like you're taking ultimately agency of something in the future because you're like kind of restricting it, right? Like, so this isn't like even if it was theoretical possible, you would just sort of constrain the future of something which develops. Doesn't seem right either. So I think we just need to be comfortable with the fact that there's these new types of forms of life coming, and then like we need to think about like with humans, you know, like sometimes we can't even align someone until we've seen what they're doing. Like it's actually like anyone who runs a business or anything really knows that like you have a bunch of employees and then they tell them one thing, they do another, right? Like that's non-trivial. So I'm sure you have.
Any thoughts on implications or yeah?
I think there's roughly speaking two really interesting new types of institutions that are going to form. One is, I love Primo's work on exstitutions and the idea that we have like almost like an inversion of an institution that is able to mint certificates and give credentials to people without that needing to exist formally or be run by people. You can get the hardness property without having to have a hierarchy of people making that thing happen. The other one that I'm really excited about is just DAOs that outperform companies. Like I love game theory thinking. I'm a big Daniel Schmachtenberger fan, and like the way that we make the transition from like the current market economy into a new one that we like better, or that treats us better, that helps with flourishing, is by creating these organizations that hold that flourishing on the inside, inside the DAO, but are ruthless. Apex predators on the outside. They're actually able to outcompete all of the existing corporations in the world. And I think that's my prediction for how the transition will happen. And I'm hopeful that we can actually maintain the type of harmonious connection that is ideal to me inside of these DAOs.
Is there a third? You said executions, DAOs that outcompete. No, never mind. Sorry, I thought you said there were three. Okay, my bad. Cool. So one of the things that I'd love to kind of impress upon people here is why is this actually important? Like, why are you guys personally spending time on this? What is the motivation here? I kind of got a sense of it just now. I'm curious for you guys as well. What's the why?
I think everyone should have their own single or multiple autonomous AI agents that do valuable things for them along like health, wealth, and well-being. And then the question is, how do you do that? Well, if you have it in a centralized context, I mean, and at best someone skims like some economic like profit from you more than they should. At worst, you have zero control over your life. So that's what kind of drives us.
For me, it's just curiosity.
Good answer.
So I worked in big tech as a machine learning engineer. At one point I got put on the surveillance team. Also saw the impact that this technology was going to have in terms of working with computer vision models that could recognize emotions and all this sort of stuff. And so I really started thinking about who's going to have the power over this technology. And so that's why I fell down the crypto rabbit hole, and then found my way. There was only like a handful of, you could count them on one hand, all the projects in the crypto space working on AI. David was at Fetch and Trent from Ocean. I found my way to Ocean, just kept working across the stack, and here we are 3 years later, and AI crypto is finally happening and like blossoming, which is great. So it's about like creating this alternative structure for implementing this powerful technology, which is AI for me.
Nick, you talked about the stakes of this in a recent blog post. I wonder if you could frame that for us.
Yeah. Basically, I think we've already heard this a couple times today, that AI is a massively centralizing force, and there are big companies out there that, and